Hello world. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for connecting with me wherever you are and whenever you are. I wanted to take some time today to talk about the concept of a spiritual awakening and what this actually means in my experience. I guess it occurred to me that since I had a spiritual awakening, it feels like a term that it makes sense to use. But if it's not something you've had the direct personal experience of, then it probably seems like quite a strange or alien concept, or a term that you know that's familiar, that you have a reference point of it, but no sort of understanding of what the nuance is of what that actually means. So I thought it would be useful to explore that term and my understanding of it before I actually go into the details of my experience and the things that I have been through. So, a spiritual awakening, to put it simply, it can be thought of as being a major shift in perception. So it's a major shift in your consciousness. Something that generally comes about because of intervention or assistance from something outside of yourself. So whether you want to call that spirit or God or the universe. So in my experience, when I had a spiritual awakening, my view of the world shifted from my life before and my life after. The world was a different place. I guess a metaphor that comes to mind to explain what that sort of feels like is if you spend time as a child at a park and you have memories of being at the park and there's lots of grass and it's green and there's a slide and a swing, the experience that you have there is from the point of view, the perspective of the child's eyes. And you might remember thinking, wow, that was a massive slide. Or wow, the swing was going so high, or the park was so big, it was a massive field, and that kind of thing. And then if you revisit that same place as an adult many years later, the experience that you have of that exact same place is very different. So you're going to get there and you're going to think, oh, I remember coming here and, this slide used to seem massive. Or I remember thinking like this park was huge. But then as the adult, you come back and you're like, oh, it's a lot smaller than I remember. Or the slide is, not as exciting anymore. It looks small, or it looks boring, or whatever it might be. And your awareness of that same place has shifted. Even though nothing that is there has changed, the components of what was there that you were seeing as the child are all exactly the same. Now as the adult, you come back and you have a greater complexity of information available at your disposal. So you have more awareness of, I'm at the park, but I'm also in this part of the town. and I'm also this far from the supermarket, and I'm in this region or county, I'm in this country, you know, the culture here is X, Y, or Z. The people here speak with this accent or look like this or whatever it may be. You're viewing that space with a greater level of understanding of how it's situated in reality and how it is interconnected and related to other things. And this is the way that I would describe the experience of a spiritual awakening. There's a radical shift in perception that happens in what can seem like or feel like in an instant. You shift from having a vision through one set of eyes to very quickly seeing the same scene, the same scenario from an altered state with new information and new complexity being available to you. And so what this means for a spiritual awakening experience is that you're suddenly seeing perhaps your life or your relationships or yourself or your work life, your family life from a very different perspective. Something has changed and you're seeing it with new eyes. You're seeing it from a more aligned perspective. You've moved closer to the truth. I think often it can be also a shift from viewing the world through the eyes of conditioning and programming, which are almost like computer programs or viruses that have been playing that you've been taught through societal conditioning, family conditioning. And when you break free of those conditioning programs, your perception changes and you're having a new experience. You're experiencing your life in a different way. It feels different. New thoughts and insights are going to come to you, and new connections become obvious. With the additional information, it's almost as though if before you had been viewing the world through rose-tinted glasses or, you know, like coloured glasses where you've seen the world through a red tint and everything before you were looking at the same item, but you were seeing it all as red. And then suddenly, if you were to remove those glasses, you can look at the same objects, but you're able to glean new perspectives, new information, new complexity from them, where you have the ability to access the subtle information of the nuances, of the different shades, the different colours. And so when this happens in a spiritual aspect of life, it's almost as though the shift in your perception, the shift in your level of awareness, it's an invitation, it's an opportunity to make change. And if you choose to integrate the new information that becomes available to you, then it allows you in a moment to pivot and set off on a new trajectory. The old version of you, who was seeing the world through the old lens, the old eyes, was setting along a path in a certain direction, making certain choices. And in an instant, so much can change that the path takes a completely new turn. And the destination that you're headed for can be somewhere that's radically different and radically new. And the opportunity for personal growth and evolution is available to you. And I say opportunity because you have the free will choice to either take the information that is made available and run with it and work with it and question what is going on here and how does this make me feel and who am I becoming? But there is also the option to move back into the old view and the old programming, if that's the path that you want to return to. So everything is done with free will. Everything is a choice. We have so much more power than we have been led to believe. I hope that has been useful and has given you a new perspective, a new insight on, from my experience anyway, what a spiritual awakening can do to someone. I mean, there's such a huge array of different experiences that people have, whether it be through a ceremony or a near-death experience or a traumatic experience that someone goes through. These can all actually be huge opportunities to shift into a new timeline. Thank you for joining me and sending you so much love.